Good morning, you are watching A News. I'm Katie Wilson. Here are the top stories. Washington says it will keep striking Yemen's Houthis until shipping attacks stop. At least 59 people have died in a nightclub fire in North Macedonia. Government declares a week of mourning. Cuba begins slowly restoring power after a countrywide outage. The US has vowed to maintain airstrikes against Yemen's Houthi rebels until they stop targeting international shipping. This commitment comes as US forces carry out ongoing operations in the region.
The United States has vowed to continue airstrikes against Yemen's Houthi rebels until they cease attacks on international shipping. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth confirmed the ongoing operations on Sunday after fighter jets were seen taking off in a video released by US Central Command. The strikes follow Washington's announcement that it would keep targeting the Houthi until their actions against shipping end. Yemen reported that the US launched 2 strikes on Hodeidah on Monday. In response, Houthi military spokesperson Yahya Saraya says that their forces have launched a second attack on the US aircraft carrier USS Harry S. Truman in the northern Red Sea. The attack involved ballistic missiles and drones.
The Yemeni armed forces succeeded in thwarting a hostile attack the enemy was preparing to launch against our country. Its warplanes were forced to return from their launching point after the Yemeni armed forces launching a number of missiles and drones at the aircraft carrier and several of its warships.
The US airstrikes, which have been described as the most significant military action in the Middle East since President Donald Trump took office, reportedly killed at least 53 people. While US warplanes intercepted and destroyed 11 Houthi drones on Sunday, none of the drones posed a direct threat to the Truman, according to US officials.
Severe storms and deadly tornadoes have ripped through the southern USA, leaving at least 36 people dead and thousands without power. Missouri was hit the hardest with 12 fatalities as the violent winds flattened homes. In Kansas, a dust storm caused a highway pileup, killing 8 people. More than 250,000 properties lost power, and tornado watches remain in effect across Louisiana, Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida. Officials warn of ongoing severe weather, flash floods, and strong winds, urging residents to stay alert. US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order slashing funding and reducing the operations of Voice of America and other key government media agencies. The cuts are part of his broader push to shrink the federal bureaucracy and eliminate what he describes as unnecessary spending.
US President Donald Trump is seeking to cut funding and reduce operations of several federal agencies, including the US Agency for Global Media and the parent organization of Voice of America. It's the latest step by the administration to reduce the size of the federal bureaucracy, a move that aims to reduce operations to what he says will be the bare minimum mandated by law. Among the agencies targeted are VOA, Radio Free Europe/Radio Liberty, and Radio Free Asia. In the wake of the order, more than 1,300 employees at VOA were placed on administrative leave, and funding was terminated for services such as Radio Free Europe. The cuts come just a day after President Trump named Kari Lake, a former news anchor and staunch Trump ally, as the new VOA director. Lake has been vocal about her belief that mainstream media holds an anti-Trump bias and has been tasked with reducing USA-GM scope significantly. Advocates for free press have strongly criticised the move. Michael Abramowitz, VOA's director, says he's deeply concerned, as this is the first time in 83 years that the organisation has been silenced. VOA provides news in nearly 50 languages, reaching 360 million people every week. Mike Balsamo, president of the National Press Club, called it a blow to America's commitment to a free press. And Reporters Without Borders warned the cuts could endanger press freedom worldwide. Trump is also targeting other agencies, including the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, reducing their operations to minimal legal requirements.
US President Donald Trump says he is expected to speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday. He was speaking about the war in Ukraine aboard his Air Force One plane. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who recently visited Moscow, described his 3 to 4 hour meeting with Putin as positive and added that the discussion was solutions-based. Witkoff stated that Putin accepts Trump's philosophy for ending the Ukraine war. Recently, the US and Russia have aligned more closely, despite Putin's reservations about agreeing to a 30-day ceasefire set by the US in Ukraine after recent talks in Saudi Arabia. Donald Trump met with senior advisors to discuss efforts for a ceasefire, with plans for further discussions. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has appointed Major General Andriy Khnatov as Ukraine's Chief of General Staff on Sunday, as Kyiv seeks to speed up army reform. A decree published on the presidential website said General Khnatov would replace Lieutenant General Anatoly Bargilevich. Khnatov has 27 years of military experience, having risen through the ranks from Marines Brigade Commander to leading troops in the eastern Donetsk region. A devastating nightclub fire in North Macedonia has claimed at least 59 lives and injured 150 people. The fire broke out during a concert at Club Pulse in Kočani, with officials saying fireworks most likely caused the blaze. The government has declared a 7-day period of mourning.
A massive fire tore through a nightclub in North Macedonia's town of Kočani early Sunday, leaving 59 people dead and injuring 155 others. The blaze started around 3 a.m. during a live performance, when sparks from pyrotechnics reportedly set the ceiling on fire. Videos captured the chaos as people rushed to escape through thick smoke while the musicians urged them to flee. Authorities say 39 victims have been identified so far, while the injured have been transported to hospitals across the country, including in the capital, Skopje. Some are in critical condition with severe burns. The government is receiving offers of medical aid from neighbouring countries, including Albania, Bulgaria, Greece and Serbia. Officials are investigating whether the nightclub met safety standards. Arrest warrants have been issued for 4 people, including the club's owner, as authorities assess responsibility for the tragedy.
The fire was caused by pyrotechnics used for lighting effects at the concert and activated the sprinklers. Most likely, sparks caught a part of the ceiling that was made of flammable material, causing the fire to spread to the entire discotheque in a short period of time, creating thick smoke.
Rescue teams continue searching the site for more victims as families wait anxiously for updates outside hospitals.
I am father of one of the children affected by the great tragedy in Kočani. Anastasia Sokolov is my daughter. She's here in the hospital in Skopje. She was some hours in Stip. She has burns, also has smoke inhalation, and she is here for a treatment by respirator. She is in a stable condition, that's what we can say now. What matters is that she's alive.
As the nation mourns, leaders across the region, including from the EU, Albania and Ukraine, have expressed their condolences. Investigations into the cause and safety conditions of the venue are ongoing.
Negligence and poor safety regulations have led to deadly tragedies in nightclubs before. Let's reflect on some examples of deadly nightclub fires from across the century.
On Christmas Day in 2000, a fire broke out in the Dongdu commercial building in Luoyang, China, killing 309 people. The blaze began in the basement during renovations and rapidly spread throughout the building. Most of the victims were trapped in the 4th floor disco, where they suffocated. The disco was illegally operating, and 23 people were later sentenced to prison for their roles in the disaster. Another tragedy struck in December of 2009 in Russia's Lame Horse nightclub in Perm, where 156 people have died. The fire started when indoor fireworks ignited the club's ceiling, causing it to rapidly spread. Many of the victims succumbed to smoke inhalation as panic set in. The venue's emergency exits were insufficient, with one door reportedly being sealed shut. Investigations revealed multiple violations of safety regulations, particularly regarding the use of pyrotechnics indoors. A similar accident occurred in January of 2013 in Brazil, where a fire at the Kiss nightclub in Santa Maria claimed 242 lives. The blaze was caused by a flare lit by a band on stage, setting the ceiling on fire. As the club was overcrowded and had insufficient emergency exits, a stampede occurred, worsening the casualties. Toxic fumes from the fire claimed many victims, and investigations found that the club lacked necessary fire safety measures, including functioning fire extinguishers. 2 years later, in October of 2015, deadly fire erupted at the Collective nightclub in Bucharest, Romania. The blaze started from pyrotechnics used during a concert, killing 64 people. The club was overcrowded and lacked adequate fire safety measures, including emergency exits. Following the fire, protests erupted over the country's poor safety standards, leading to the resignation of the Prime Minister and the sentencing of those responsible, including the club's owners. The most recent tragedy occurred in April 2024 at the Masquerade nightclub in Istanbul, leading to the death of 29 people. The nightclub was undergoing renovations at the time, and the fire trapped workers inside. Investigations revealed that the fire started due to negligence during the renovation process, with safety measures failing to prevent the blaze. Several public officials and nightclub owners were charged with negligence.
2 ski mountaineers were left in a critical condition after being struck by an avalanche in the Italian Dolomites on Sunday. The slide happened around 1 o'clock local time, involving 3 skiers. A 4th was unharmed and managed to raise the alarm. A search dog pinpointed a 40-year-old woman after she was buried in more than 3 meters of snow. A 38-year-old man was transported to hospital after being resuscitated by rescuers. A 51-year-old man had to be treated for hypothermia and an ankle injury after being freed from the snow by his companion. The Vatican has released the first image of Pope Francis in hospital since the 88-year-old pontiff began treatment for double pneumonia. The Pope was admitted to Rome's Gemelli Hospital on the 14th of February with a severe respiratory infection that has required evolving treatment. He has not been seen in public since. The pontiff is pictured seated in the hospital's chapel, as the Vatican says he celebrated Mass with the other priests in the chapel on Sunday. A wave of goodwill swept through the courtyard of Rome's Gemelli Hospital as children arrived to offer a symbolic hug of hope to Pope Francis, who has been recovering in the hospital for a month. The young delegation, representing various schools and associations, brought drawings, prayers and messages wishing the Pope a speedy recovery. This initiative was led by Father Enzo Fortunato, President of the Pontifical Committee for World Children's Day.
Children all over the world need your presence and your words. We children are your army of peace, and we want to keep walking with you. We love you very much. We pray for you every day, and with you, we want peace for everyone.
It's
Decided to be here to tell to everybody that the peace it's very important. This is a square of peace, and today 500 children will be here to say that this is the square of peace, and that the children must need the peace, because it's a very, very important in this particular moment.
Serbia's capital witnessed one of the largest anti-government protests in decades. Students, workers and farmers rallied against President Aleksandar Vučić, demanding accountability over a deadly railway station collapse last year, which sparked accusations of corruption and negligence.
Protesters descended on Serbia's capital, Belgrade, in one of the largest rallies in decades, as students and workers confronted supporters of President Aleksandar Vučić and riot police. While the government put attendance at 107,000 across Belgrade, an independent monitor said 325,000, if not more, had gathered, making it Serbia's largest protest ever. Serbia has seen months of anti-government protests following the deaths of 15 people in a railway station roof collapse, which sparked accusations of widespread corruption and negligence. The protests have since grown to include students, teachers and farmers, posing a major challenge to Vučić, a populist leader who has held power for 12 years as either Prime Minister or President. The government denies allegations of corruption and incompetence, claiming that Western intelligence agencies are backing efforts to destabilise Serbia.
It doesn't matter as long as they, the government, know that they can be replaced, that we can count on fair and honest elections and life in general, that we can live better and more dignified lives.
Since the students started this, I think the students should continue and take it to the end, to the point when their conditions are met. Their demands are very good, their demands are very smart and coherent, because they are fighting, through the resolution of the station canopy incident, to also resolve the way we have been living in this country for the last few decades.
Police said they had apprehended 13 people in incidents overnight and early Saturday, including 3 men accused of attacking pro-Vučić farmers' tractors, which were parked in a ring around Pionirski Park, where government supporters have been camping. Across the street from the park, hundreds of veterans from elite military brigades wearing maroon berets and bikers, both allied with the students, lined up as the march proceeded between the Parliament building and nearby square.
In Cuba, power is gradually being restored in parts of Havana after a nationwide blackout left millions in the dark. The outage affected around 10 million people and was triggered by a grid collapse on Friday evening. While some areas are seeing progress, large parts of Cuba remain without electricity.
Pockets of Havana flickered back to life on Sunday morning, though vast areas of the Cuban capital and the country remain without power. Havana's electric companies say approximately 19% of its customers have had electricity restored. However, there is still no official estimate for when full power will return. Officials announced that the country's largest power plant has been restarted, a crucial step in restoring electricity to the eastern provinces.
A few generating units are in the process of starting up, and electricity coverage across the country should continue improving. The situation now is different from last night. We now have a nationally interconnected system from Mariel in the west to Guantanamo in the far east. This is a more positive condition. Thermal generation units have already been incorporated, and several more units are being restarted.
While many businesses in Havana continue to rely on generators, some have resumed normal operations as electricity returns to select areas.
They say the system is slowly recovering. It's real. We have a colleague who just arrived, and at her house, electricity has been restored. The system seems to be stabilising in her area. We hope that little by little power will return to all municipalities.
The nationwide blackout began on Friday evening after a transmission line failure at a substation in Havana triggered a chain reaction, shutting down power generation across the island. The Cuban government blames the worsening energy crisis on the long-standing US trade embargo and fresh sanctions imposed by US President Donald Trump. The measures tightened economic restrictions on the communist-led nation as part of a tough policy against the government.
4 astronauts have been successfully delivered to the International Space Station by a SpaceX capsule early on Sunday. It's part of a NASA crew swap mission to bring home 2 astronauts who have been stranded at the station for 9 months.
A SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule carrying 4 astronauts has successfully docked with the International Space Station, completing a 29-hour journey from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
Dragon is transmitting through the hatch.
The astronauts aboard were welcomed by the station's 7-member crew, which includes NASA veterans Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, who have been on the station for an extended 9 months. Their return had been delayed due to issues with Boeing's Starliner capsule, which was unable to bring them back due to technical issues, and NASA was forced to bring the capsule back empty. The astronauts aboard Crew 10 are set to remain on the ISS for 6 months. Wilmore and Williams, along with NASA astronaut Nick Hague and Russian cosmonaut Alexander Gorbunov, are scheduled to return to Earth soon. Both Wilmore and Williams continued their duties, conducting scientific research and routine maintenance during their extended stay. Williams expressed her excitement about returning home to her family and pets after what she says has been a challenging but rewarding experience.
We're done for now, but don't go far. Stay tuned for more and have a wonderful morning.